For men, the third most painful thing that you can experience in your entire life is a gout attack. And I had that wonderful experience at the age of 23, which is extremely rare and extremely early for gout. I learned later that gout runs really strongly on both sides of my family, and it's only then that I start to really figure out how to deal with gout. So I had my first gout attack at 23 years old, right at the end of med school. And med school is fairly stressful, and one of the things that we do to work off that steam is that we like to play sports against other medical schools. My story of gout was one of excess. We were traveling to Montreal, where there's a lot of poutine, there's a lot of beer, talking with other healthcare professionals and networking, and so there's a lot of alcohol involved as well, if I'm being completely honest. Things that are certainly not very naturopathic, but let's just get past that for today. Now, at Med Games, we're playing very competitive sports, and I have a history of competitive and elite level sports. I was playing ball against some of the guys that I used to play competitive ball with years ago at the varsity level. The combination of intense sports and probably going a little bit too far with how intense I was competing, poor food choices that I was making at the time, including burgers, pizza, and poutine, and the alcohol, that's what really set me off for my first gout attack. That first attack was by the book. As far as textbook descriptions of gout, what I experienced was extreme pain that came on very suddenly in the base of my big toe, at that big joint, sort of where your bunion is. Now, gout can occur at technically any joint in your body, and the most common places, though, are in the base of your big toe and in your knees. Having pain at the base of your big toe it's almost hilarious. It's funny at the same time as it is frustrating, and at the same time is extremely painful. And you're almost laughing at yourself for how ridiculous it is that you're experiencing so much pain in this one little area. But it's no joke, because you can't even walk. I was in crutches for a few days. I had a hard time even focusing on my studies and attending lectures and really just going through the motions of being in school at the time. So after learning that gout ran really strongly through my family, I started asking a lot of questions, and I found out that a lot of my relatives were on classic treatments, NSAID medications or pain medications, colchicine, allopurinol. These are very common tools for managing gout, and they all work by lowering the amount of uric acid or urate that's in your blood. Gout occurs when we get the crystallization of uric acid or urate into our joints, and so this can occur at any joint in your body, but typically happens at the base of your big toe or in your knees first. Extremely painful, these uric acid crystals come from having high levels of uric acid on an ongoing basis, and uric acid levels come from high intake in our diet of foods that contain purines. Foods that contain the highest levels of purines typically are things like beer and alcohol, red meat, and specifically organ meats, so things like liver and kidney especially, but all red meats in general will contain some level of purines. And lastly, seafoods, and especially shellfish, things like lobster and clams and oysters and things like that. The reduction of the consumption of these foods that contain purines is one of the most important things in preventing gout attacks in the future. Reducing the consumption of shellfish, red meats, and organ meats specifically, and certainly cutting back on alcohol, especially beer. What you'll always hear around gout is that it's important for you to drink lots of water, and that's very true. Drinking tons of water makes sure that you're eliminating things out of your kidneys as quickly as possible, and that's the only way that our body can get uric acid out of our blood, by filtering it through the kidneys. I like to try to make sure that I'm peeing every hour when I'm feeling a gout attack coming on. One trick that you can do to increase your water intake is by filling a cup of water and putting it at your bedside at night and drinking it first thing in the morning before you even roll out of bed. So while I had my first gout attack at a really young age of 23, over the years I've really learned to control those symptoms. Probably the biggest game changer for me though was taking a daily greens supplement. A greens powder added into a fruit smoothie or just in water has been the biggest thing that I've done in my diet that has helped me prevent gout attacks since the age of 23. Consuming a greens powder is one way that we can shift our diet to a more anti-inflammatory one and make sure that we're increasing the elimination of things like uric acid. So by ensuring that I'm reducing the purine containing foods in my diet, drinking tons of water, and making sure I'm consuming a greens powder on a daily basis, I've not had a gout attack since I was 25 years old. It's been almost 20 years. If you're dealing with chronic painful conditions like gout, smash that subscribe button. I want to talk more about that stuff with you. Another supplement that a lot of people with gout will be looking at taking would be omega-3 fatty acids, or EPA and DHA from fish oils. Now, if you're concerned at all about the recent association of atrial fibrillation with omega-3 fatty acids, check out the video that I just did where we really dig into the science of whether or not that's actually true. Hey, if you're worried at all about your health and living as long as you possibly can, as well as you possibly can, you definitely want to hit subscribe on my channel, because that's what we're going to be talking about all day long.